when Steve Jobs started with the iPhone and then he started doing things, there's going to be no buttons on the phone. I was like, what do you mean no buttons on a phone? How can you not have a button on a phone? There has to be a button on a phone. How am I going to do this? And he was like, I'm Steve Jobs, no buttons. That's the end of it. And I was like, oh my God, he's a genius. And anybody else comes up with that same idea, it doesn't get out the door. And welcome to this week's episode of Pickles and Pasta with Steph and Jay. Hey, Steph.
Hey, Jared.
Right, I got it right. I do try to nail the opening. It's not a professional actor, everybody. So just you gotta bear with me, and I appreciate that you do. You're looking lovely as always.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you smile when you hear the opening of the show, or do you smile when you hear Steph?
I just smile because I'm sitting in this chair with my headphones in and the microphone in front of me, and I'm looking at your lovely smiling face.
I'll take it. Okay, so on to this week's episode. This week we're going to talk about what it feels like being right too early. And I think this is something that every entrepreneur, business person has felt at some point, and I think a lot of people in general feel that. Well, I was the one who I knew that was going to be this, or I would. But I think when you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, and part of what you have to do is you have to come up with ideas, right, to do something. Because if you just do something that everybody else did, it's kind of, why would somebody hire you? Why would somebody come to you? Why would, it kind of doesn't make any sense. But sometimes you're right, you're right, and nobody gets it. And because you're just too early. You're just a little too early. And there are so many examples of that in history. And I just thought it would be good to kind of talk about that, like from our perspective of like what it's felt like for us over the years, because it's not just one time. It's usually, it happens. it definitely happens. So anything on your side, do you want to kind of kick it off a little bit about like kind of from your experience, like, I don't know, something that, I know stuff of yours already. So, I mean, I could tell this story for you, but
I like it when you tell my story. That's always interesting when I hear other people tell my story, because it's like your version of it, which is really fascinating because we all see our stories differently.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your version of it is for me. And I'm going to give you the floor on that, but I just want to say one thing to lead into this. From my perspective, I come at it from a place of, I'm confident in the work that I do. I'm confident in myself as an artist, as a designer, as a thinker around, just general things in life and the way we do things and the way we interact with people and society. So I think when you come from that place of being confident in the things that you put out into the world, you're always going to be, like, in a way, ahead of the curve, because it's going to be something unique that's never possibly been done before. And so I always feel like I'm kind of coming from that place, although I'm not as revolutionary as I see you as being.
All right. You could just put a button in that right there. No, but so yeah, I could certainly come up with a lot of different examples, and you could see. I mean, I could take it with your painting style, where you could start to see things that you do, and then we'll look around, and all of a sudden, people be like, "Oh, I don't get it," and then somebody maybe starts doing that like a year later, and it's not that they saw your work, but like maybe they did, but there was that bag that you designed.
Yes, I just remembered that as you
There was that bag
said
that you designed. So just so you guys understand a little bit about the process and the way Steph built Have Some Fun Today and what it was, and obviously we've talked about how it's evolving, but this isn't a business this isn't about the business of Have Some Fun Today, but just the concept of it. So Steph would with the t-shirts and the sweatshirts, sometimes we would find a t-shirt or sweatshirt that we liked, and then we could just kind of find a manufacturer that did that, and we could work with them, and there was design to it, but it was more the design of the logo or the image or something like that, whatever. There were some sweatshirts that Steph totally designed from scratch, like the entirety of it, the material, the cut. There was a little cut on the side. There's little things about it. It was totally designed from scratch, whatever. Again, not that overly complicated, but still a lot. But when you get into making bags, that's a whole other animal. And you have to kind of, you can't just design. I mean, you can, yes, for sure. I mean, you have to start with a design, but you have to actually make something. You have to make some sort of a sample that the manufacturer can fully understand. And all due respect to the companies that manufacture these very intricate, complicated bags, whether it's for Have Some Fun Today or for other vendors or, designers or whatever, they're great at what they do. They can make it, but you have to give them what you want them to make. Their expertise is not, even when they have designers, and that is not their expertise in coming up with this new thing that hasn't ever been done before, that hasn't ever been seen. And so you did that. You came up with this idea, and people are like, what? Like, why it doesn't make sense, and why is it like this shape? And we're like, this shape doesn't exist. Like, how are they going to make it? Like, we got flack all the way along. Everything about it, from this and talking to that girl who does those prototypes, who was fantastic. Gosh, she did a great job. I mean, she really did. But she was like, "What's never been done before? I don't know how I'm going to do it." Blah 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 blah. You do it. It's amazing. And what was it? 6 months later, or 9 months later? What was the brand that did it?
It was Loewe in Rome, in their flagship store.
Right. So,
a bag that looked exactly like my bag, and had the word "love" appliqued on the bag. Yeah, it was. It was crazy.
But you can kind of explain better, because it was you had the feeling, but like what it feels like when like I'm right. I'm like, I know I'm right. I mean, you just that you're right, and you were just a touch early, but it was not there yet. So
a touch early, and a few $100 million less than they have to do it all.
Sure. Yes, there's that, but that's not the point, really.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, yes, of course.
But it helps in the success. Maybe I wouldn't have to be explaining myself if I had all the ability to market it the way, it needs to be marketed.
So that's a slightly different thing, but yes, when an established brand or an established person or whatever tells you something, and they say, this is the way it is, this is this new thing I did, everybody's like, oh my God, it's amazing. Even when it's
right.
Not. I mean, anybody who can remember back, when Steve Jobs started with the iPhone, and then he started doing things, there's going to be no buttons on the phone. I was like, what do you mean no buttons on a phone? How can you not have a button on a phone? There has to be a button on a phone. How am I going to do this? And he was like, I'm Steve Jobs, no buttons. That's the end of it. And it was like, oh my God, he's a genius. And anybody else comes up with that same idea, it doesn't get out the door at all.
Yeah.
So that to me is that's just a separate conversation. We could go on and on about those types of things. And that's, but there's something about like being early, and how do you hold on? I think, how do you hold on to that? And eventually the world catches up, and then hopefully you're still doing, or you're doing that business thing, and then maybe you get discovered, or maybe you get noticed, but whatever. But then I think that then your business you're ahead of it. You're very far ahead of it. I think, I don't know. I think it's an interesting road, because it's very easy to get knocked off from people like, well, you shouldn't do that. It's very easy to get the criticism. You shouldn't do that. Why are you wasting your time? It's not going to work. Nobody's going to get it, blah, blah, blah. Or the people love to throw ideas. Oh, you should change this. You should put the flap there. You should, the button should be on the left side of the screen. Like, and then you change, when you were early and you were right. And that was the thing that was going to really make a difference. And a lot of people, unfortunately, cave.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, the thing that I can think of that is the best example for me now would be my art. I mean, being an artist is not new to me. It's not new to the people around me. I have been back and forth with my art practice for, 50 years. And coming back into the art practice around COVID, I don't think a lot of people around me were really taking it seriously, maybe including myself too, because I was still, very entrenched in have some fun today. I think it was a slow build to get myself to be back into the space of, not that I can do it, it's that I want to do it. And I'm ready now to own that this is where I want to focus for the foreseeable future. And I think that was the part for me that I felt some pushback around amongst people who were close to me in my life, because maybe they were seeing like, now she's switching again. I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of hypothesizing why there was pushback. Maybe, there's so many reasons why there could be pushback. But for me, honestly, I don't care when I get pushback. I really don't care. Yeah. I'm so used to getting pushback for almost anything I do to a certain degree with certain types of people. And then there are certain people who just always are like, you got it, But I think the art thing was the closest I came recently to people being like, but does she really have it? Can she really, pull this off? I felt that from other people, but I know I just know. It's like this full body knowing that, yeah, just give me some time and give me a place to do the work, and I'll do the work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. Do you find, like, let's say in different things you've done, like when you were doing interior design, you probably had really cool ideas around, a certain way a flow of a room should look, or a colorway, or patterns that match, that you were like just way ahead of anybody doing that, and that was kind of did you run into like issues with clients that they would be like, they didn't get it, but you were taking them, you were trying to take them to a higher place, a better place, a newer place, and there was just like, they're like, no, we just want the same traditional, and you were like, you saw it, like you saw where whatever living room style was going, or beddings were going, or whatever, and you were just so far ahead of it, and then eventually the market said you were right, but you were way ahead of it. Like what you ran into with that?
Well, what I ran into with interior design, I think people actually hired me for that specific thing. Reason. Yeah. Like okay. I looked, very much like Kelly Wearstler. I've always been a fan of hers since I was aware of her like 25 years ago. She is an artist, and I'm an artist, and I have always felt that an interior should be a place where you are, first of all, very comfortable, and you feel very, it evokes some kind of feeling for the person who's in the space. So in a residence, I think the person wants to feel like it's their sanctuary, where it's inspiring, it's relaxing, And when you invite people over in a social setting, you know, the thing that I believe about a room is your eye when you enter a room. Certainly there should be a focal point when you enter, and that's where obviously art comes into play and the right use of color and proportion. But I feel like when you enter a room, your eye should kind of not be able to settle on one thing initially because it's so interesting. You know, the tabletops have like the most interesting vignettes, and the art, you know, kind of sets a tone, and it makes you wonder about, you know, the decision making and why they selected it, like where they got it, or they must be so interesting. Like it communicates so much. And I really loved that aspect of giving that kind of, you know, interesting and beautiful and comfortable and functional ability, you know, to my clients through my design. So I was really, I believe, known for that, and people came to me for that. I didn't get a lot of pushback. I would get pushback, however, from like the painter. Like, I mean, I did unusual things. I would lacquer ceilings. I would do, you know, ceilings in a color, you know, in a lacquered color. Like, and a lot of times, like, the painter would be like, well, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, yes, I can, you know, and I will. So I would always get pushback from people who are used to very conventional methods for doing the thing that they did in terms of an interior project.
So more the workers than the clients would give you
right.
pushback.
Yeah, just because they weren't used to doing it. Like I remember when I first started doing slab marble on walls, it was, God, that was 25 years ago.
You mean like that was having a kitchen?
Yeah. Yeah. I started doing that before anybody did that in my town, and they didn't know how to do it. I mean, even when I just did it recently,
the guys that did ours didn't know how to do it.
They didn't know how to do the ledge. That's what they didn't know how to do. So yeah. I do get pushback from the people who are doing the work for me, because often, like if I were doing it in New York City, maybe there wouldn't be so much pushback. But when you're doing something that's a very high-end design technique in a small town where people, you know, bringing in people from out of town, you're using local craftsmen to do it. And sometimes these techniques are just out of the scope of what they've done before. And it's happened to me so many times.
Yeah, they're probably not pushed the same way, right? Like someone in a city like New York or LA or Miami or Chicago, like certain cities where it's constant one-upping one another, better, cooler, ahead of the curve kind of mentality.
Innovation. Yeah, innovative techniques.
Yeah. So obviously the workers have to do that too. The workers have to learn new things all the time. When you're in a place where, and look, there's some really, I mean, okay, the stuff that you design, I mean, in the house is beautiful. And, you know, we've been to friends of yours in town, and some of the stuff is really nice. It's not like it's not nice. It's very, some of the films are really beautiful or whatever. But there's nothing like, okay, wow, I haven't ever seen that before. Like it is, you don't walk into a home there. It's a little more toned down, and it's fine. That's what they like, and it's lovely. And you know, it's not like it's a bad thing. I'm not trying to criticize anybody at all. But you have more worldly taste. You have more, you look at what's going on in Europe. You look at what's going on all over the world. Like you look at those things and you learn and you're inspired by them. So you're going to come up with ideas that are new that people aren't going to totally get. Yeah.
I mean, I just find pushing it a little bit, because I guess I think it's fun. It's like, it's inspiring. It's like, I don't like to do the same old thing. I find that boring. I like to make a twist with something. And honestly, I like a good constraint because I think it allows you to be more creative. And so,
constraint was. What do you mean by constraint?
Maybe there's a budget constraint or, budget constraints are great, honestly, because they really allow you to think outside the box and see how else you can navigate a creative decision that can still make the project really exciting without breaking the bank. And I always kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I hear you talk about that often, about like, you can't really even start the project without the budget. And
Yeah, I mean,
it's just it's very tricky. And people are like, well, I don't know what it's going to cost. And like, but it's like, I run into that with stuff that we do too, like on a client stuff. If we're doing, a commercial or a video or an event or building a website, and you're like, well, what's your budget? And like, well, what's it going to cost? And they're like, what's the difference? It's going to cost $75 million. Like, what's the difference? What it's going to cost? What's your budget? If it doesn't, if you don't tell me your budget, it's hard. But I also get the other side. Like, people don't know. They don't necessarily know sometimes how much they're willing to spend something. Sometimes in a business situation, very often in a personal situation, they don't know what they're willing to pay for something till they know what they're going to get. So yes, there's certain limitations, right? So, but like, if someone says, it's going to cost, the sofa's going to, or the living room all in with all your stuff is going to cost, for argument's sake, $50,000, or it's going to cost $65,000. They may prefer the 50, but they can go to the 65.
Yeah.
But if they say 50, they're scared that they're not going to get the best thing, and they can find the extra money. Something's not. I'm just using those numbers totally arbitrary. That could be 5,000. Right. It could be 500,000. That doesn't matter. And I think it's a tricky thing. I think with us too. Like, we'll tell someone this is what it is, and they'll say, well, this is my budget, and then we'll work through it, and then they'll want this or that. It'll be like, well, actually, like, I can do that. So like, at the one hand, at first we're like, wait, I thought you couldn't afford that, or you didn't want to spend that, you didn't have the budget for it, maybe next year or not now. And all of a sudden I'm telling you, and now you're saying it is. And so, because I'm not one to upsell, like, it's not my style to make somebody spend more than what, if that's what you want to spend, I'm going to do my best to figure out how to make that work for you. But I think I think it's tricky both sides.
I think the budget conversation is important in the beginning stages because it helps you have a starting point. It may not be, where you end up. You may, once you start there and you see what's available and what your goals are, not just aesthetically, but functionally, and the statement there are reasons also why people do things that, are just because I want to up-level my life, or I want to make a statement about who I am now. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why people do projects, either in a design sense or in a commercial sense.
Yeah.
But it's a good starting point.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of where I am with how, in terms of like being right early. I usually am right early because I am a creative thinker,
You're usually right.
Well, just because I'm always kind of pushing it and looking. So when you're pushing it and looking, you're not going to be behind, like you are going to be an innovator. And I think being innovative is one of the things that really excites me about being a creative person, whether it's with my art or whether it's with my fashion or my design. We're early because we're always looking and we're curious. I think it's part of the territory.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I mean, look, I've had, tons of stuff that I'm like, I just saw something, and people would be like, oh no, that's never going to happen, or nobody's going to go along with that, or that's not the way we do things. And then you look back years later and, oh, wow, now they're doing this. Like, and I think it is interesting because when you have that like creative brain, I guess, for lack of a better word, where you literally see them. And I just said to somebody the other day about something, I don't remember who it was I was talking to, but I was like, I literally see it. Like, I'm seeing it. I see it. It's right there. Like of course.
Yeah. You always say that.
Yeah. But I see it. Like, I so see it. I see these things literally happening. I see that exact moment happening. Like, I see that. I see those. I just see it. I see it in such a clear way. But, a chef sees, a dish, like they're preparing something and they see it.
I see paintings.
Plate. Yeah.
I see paintings.
Yeah. So, as long as we're not seeing dead people, like, then we're good. But yes. Okay. But, I've had it where, I've seen a technology that's coming. Like I've seen something, and I've had to kind of, pull people along to be like, we can build this. Like, we can build this thing. And they're like, that's not possible. And I'm like, watch me. Like, it is possible. Like, we did it in my tennis days. I mean, we looked at how do we analyze a racket in a way that we really can understand it so that we can really help our players play better. And people are like, well, that's not how you do it. And I'm like, no, that's not how you do it. Like, that's fine, but this is going to work. Like, we're going to know more. We're going to be better. And I don't care. And it's you run into resistance left, right, and center. Like, nobody wants to hear it. And a lot of times we had to do things without telling anybody. Like, we had to just internally do things. And we're like, we're going to do this, like, because this is just right. Like, this is where it's going. This is what's going to happen. Why? In 5 years, everybody's going to do it this way. And it's just, it's incredible. And yeah, I've definitely dealt with it. I've dealt with it. I've dealt with it my whole existence, like, for centuries.
I mean, clearly you have, but here, you're confident. It's your confidence. And you never like refer to it as that, but it is like your belief in your head. Like, I was listening to you speak the other day, talk about Semic and something you wanted to do. And for Village, the platform you're building, and you felt like you had to build this thing for it. And you automatically go to, I'm going to build it. Because you can.
Yeah.
That's confidence. Knowing you can do something without any like physical evidence, yet you can do it, and you've done it time and time again. And it comes down to confidence, I think.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, I don't think in those terms, right? Like,
I know, because you never talk about that, but that's how I see it watching you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I guess because I don't necessarily think of myself as an overly confident person. It's like I'm shy. Like, I don't use terms, but like, if I had to come up with a term, I'd say I'm shy. And people are like, what are you talking about? You go networking, you reach out to people all the time, you go do this, you go do that. When people talk to you, you're like all full of energy and stuff. And I'm like,
because you're on a mission. You're on a mission.
Like, in general, I could sit someplace and like feel like I could walk into a room and be like, nobody here wants to talk to me.
I hear it. Like, when we're in Pennsylvania, how many people say to you, well, you never talk. And I think, well, he's not the guy that's going to walk into a room of dudes
hey, I'm here,
and be like, hey, everybody, So I find it so fascinating when I hear, the background. Well, he doesn't talk. And I'm thinking, yeah, he'll talk if there's something to talk about, not talk about other people, maybe talk about ideas and talk about the amazing shit you are building. But a lot of people don't want to talk about that because it makes them feel insecure.
Well,
because they can't even imagine,
yeah, maybe, but
conceiving of a huge platform that is going to change the way movies get made. Like, so yeah, he'll talk if you really want to hear it.
Well, but I think there's a part of it. I think we talked about this not too long ago. Like, a lot of people, and I think it's great. Like, I don't say this negatively at all. I think it's great that people get up in the morning and they go to a place, or whether they work at home or whether they go to their office, whatever it is, they go, they do their job. And it's whatever time it is, 5, 6 o'clock, and then they stop. And then they go do something else. They go play golf, they play tennis, they go to the gym, they go to a movie, they go out to dinner, they do whatever they do. And then they go back the next day and they go back to work. And that hasn't ever in my entire existence ever been my life. Like, it just hasn't ever been. It's always, my brain is going, and it's not just me. I think people that are entrepreneurial, people that have businesses, people that have a lot of ideas, they go from one to the other. And now, people talk about side hustle and schmide hustle and blah, 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 whatever. But it's if you have something that you're really working. I mean, same thing with you. Like you have,
Yeah.
you could paint in the morning, you could paint at night, you could be designing, you could be doing, So I think it's a very different thing that your brain is kind of always thinking about those things, even though you're like, oh, like, look, we had a call earlier today and we were working out some design things for the website that we're working on, and okay, I'm still thinking about it. Like, it's not like I'm thinking about it, trying to change it. I'm not thinking about it like in that. I'm not doing that. So whoever's listening, guys, don't worry. I'm not trying to change anything. But just, of course, I'm thinking about it. I mean, I'm visualizing like, okay, we're going to do this. And then when that happens, okay, this is how people are going to interact. And then it's going to do this. And then
it's incubating. It's incubating. Yeah.
It's so I think like that's just part of it. And I think for a lot of people, they just maybe don't get that. So sometimes you're early with something and people don't get it, but it's like you have no choice. You have no choice but to be early. I think it isn't like I'm trying to be early. It's not like I want to be. I mean, yes, I like to be on time. So technically I like to be first, but it's not like it's a game. It's not like I win, like I came up with the idea first. And I don't ever do that. I don't ever say, well, I told you that 5 years ago. Like, I don't do that. Like, it's not my thing. It's not my personality. I don't feel that's a good way to be. But I feel almost like, and it's not like it's a pressure, like I have to be first, but I think it's somehow ingrained that like, there's things I feel I'm supposed to do. There's people I feel I'm here to do something and to help people and to do things that will help people, not just me helping people, because I'm one thing, right? So I can do so much physically. I have to do things that can help more and more and more and more. Like that's what I feel I'm supposed to do. So I have to be thinking beyond what's here, because what's here is the thing that I don't feel is working well enough. Like I want to be better than that. So I have to do that. And I think I'm not alone in saying that. People that work in, biotech and work in healthcare and work in construction, like there are people within every industry you could think of that are thinking like that. They're like,
yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
So, but it comes, it's easier to not in many ways, right? It's not easier for me to not because, and for you to not because that's who we are. That's how we're built. But
right.
For a lot of people, it's easier to be like, I don't need to be first. It's
and
okay.
Good, because honestly, not everybody could do this. And we wouldn't want everybody constantly it's a crowd. It would be a crowded space.
Yeah. And not everything will work, right? Like, I mean, it's plenty of times I've come up with things that I think is great and better. And I was wrong. Like, it's like, no, that was not such a great idea. Like that was not the best thing for it. And so, I think it's, I don't know. I think with everything you have to kind of find balance, but I think when you have that sort of way about you that you see things that other people don't see, yeah, that's going to make you first. It at times can feel very lonely, like you just sometimes when you're sitting alone, you're just going to be like, God, why can't they see this? Like, why? This is not so hard. Like, this is not so hard. And it could be anything. It could be someone who's an activist, right? They're like, okay, I figured out the way to solve this problem. I figured out a way to get these people who are not getting along to work this out. And people don't. And it can be lonely at times, but it can be so incredibly rewarding when that thing happens. Again, without ego, without where's my trophy? Like none of that. Like I think that's not. I talked to somebody else recently about stuff, and I was like, well, when I came up with this idea and I was working on it, and it took a long time, and I was thinking, and whatever, and I was like, but I didn't ever think about the money. I didn't ever think about the money. That wasn't what I was thinking about. My whole focus was like, there's something here that isn't working. I've got to figure out a way to make this work. And then I'm like, holy shit, this thing's gonna make a lot of money. Like, okay, that's cool. Like, that's great because obviously, because like investors have to get their money back. They don't give you the money. They expect returns. And yes, I won't be upset if I have money so I could do things for the people I care about. All that sort of stuff. It's nice. I'm not complaining about that. But I think there's a lot of people that try to come up with a new idea and their first focus is the money. Their focus is the money. They're like, well, I'm going to do this thing that's going to make me a lot of money. And sometimes those people win. Sometimes it works. Like sometimes it works. But I think more often than not, when that's the driver, I'm going to be the first one to do this in this neighborhood, and I'm going to make a shit ton of money. It tends to be like, ooh, it's a very like that. And sometimes they cash out in time and they do well and they move on. But historically, I think those, over the course of a lifetime, I don't think those kind of things work as well. I think. Yeah, that's what I think. I don't want to like spoil anything, but like, is there anything you may want to share, like a tidbit with anybody that like there's something you're thinking about that you're way ahead of and you're first and nobody's getting it yet, or nothing that comes to mind right now?
Me?
You're always thinking, yeah, you're always thinking of new things. It doesn't mean it's something you're going to do, but like, you're always thinking about interesting creative things. Like, is there a product idea you thought of that you're like, okay, I'm not going to do this right now, but like, some idea or something that where you're like, no, anything that comes to mind?
No, I think, for now, my product ideas are going to be going on the back burner, and I have other I'm focusing on my art.
Yeah.
As my primary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah. So I'm going to just share this because I don't know if it's on topic or off topic, but I think it's valuable for people to kind of learn a little bit from this, that, there was a shift and you really were like, I need to focus on my art. Like there was just a shift. And it's not that you don't have ideas, design ideas, and it isn't like there's not stuff that we're going to do for have some fun today down the road. And it isn't like you may do some other things. You may do some other ideas that may come that will happen. It's not that. But you took this, like, you made this kind of adjustment where you're like, I feel something with my art. I feel like I'm in a place where my energy is there. I see your art and I see how incredible it is and I see how it's evolving. Even though your art from 2, 3, 5 years ago, 10 years ago is still like incredibly gorgeous. It's not like it's not gorgeous, but you're finding like this whole groove that's like really, really, really cool. And I think because you somehow, and it was hard, I think, for a long time for you to be able to like stop those other things in a way, like, I'm going to do this, and 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 I'm going to do this. And you kind of found a way. And I think it's wonderful. And I think it's a lesson for a lot of people to learn from. Like, you can have a million ideas, but you can't execute a million ideas at once. Like you just can't. And I think the fact that you put your energy and your focus into it, I think it's showing. It's showing in you're happier. Your work is better. People are gravitating towards it. You're selling more. Like, I think it's a beautiful thing. And I think it's something people could learn from.
Yeah. I think I've learned so much about the making of things, and I have really learned the cost that it takes on you as a person who's putting that out there. There are so many costs to you personally, not just monetary. And I have just kind of come into this space where I really want to feel good in my body and my mind. And I realize that the world can suck up, products like crazy. And I just wanted to move away from the materialism and get back to the meaning, which is really why, the products for Have Some Fun Today, they're going to be around the art primarily, and then extend from that. So, and I'm not rushing anything. I don't have to. And so I'm not going to. Yeah. And maybe that is me being ahead of the curve again.
I think so. That's kind of where I thank you for taking it there. I opened that up for you.
Okay, because
yeah,
I'm so literal that.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm not gonna touch the latest example of that, but no, yes, you definitely are. But I think that might be it. Like you're early in this type of realization. I think a lot of people are going to get there. Like this is
glad you explained that, because I was a little confused.
You just got to sit down long pretty well. I think we have. I can't remember what we talked about, but it was fun. And I hope it was fun for everybody else that was listening.
Yeah.
Anything?
So, I was just going to say, for the audience, like, think about something that you called early and think about what it cost you before anyone else agreed.
But it will be worth it. But anyway, on that note, I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your week. And we will see you next week on Pickles and Pasta with Steph and Jay.
Have some fun today. Bye.
Yes, do that too. Bye.